Let's talk about elders. Let's talk about ceremony. And again, in my deep ignorance, okay. So here comes Western European theater, started in the churches finally said, get out, get out, get out. You're not paying attention enough to the overall ideology of the Christian church, and you're talking about other things, so you get out. So the theaters went out and said, okay, we're not part of the overall mythology, the overall religiosity, we're not part of that. But they were part of the kings and the queens, and you had to be the king's theater or the queen's theater, and you had to have a license and whatever, and the theaters went through that. And then we got rid of those. Well, I don't have to have the king or the authority or the overall power communities giving permission. I just want to tell a story on a stage. And then there was the Lord Chamberlain. The Lord Chamberlain lasted to whatever, 1920, and they were still telling you, you can do this or that on a stage, you can't. And the Western European theaters gradually walked right away from having any obligation to, in our terms, the elders of community, the power of community, the mythology of the community, or the ceremonies of community. And the only thing that was left was they played God Save the Queen at the beginning of the show, and we even got rid of that. Mm-hmm. So the tradition is for the storytelling arts in Western theater is get away from power, have no obligation to power, so you are free to go wherever the artist wants to go. Criticism, or if you want to do Mirvish productions, it's all about lauding the culture, entertaining the people and taking the money, or you're all about writing plays that are saying, I'm going to criticize the culture, I'm going to scrape it hard, I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to stimulate you. That's the tradition that we came from. Indigenous theaters, there's so much ceremony in it. There's so much we have to respect the community, which I totally understand. But I'm just wondering how the two dynamics, because we're in Canada and we're trying to say, how does this come into a common idea? We don't mix it up like soup and make it all the same. No. But it's part of, how do we find the storytelling ethos of this country, which now has so many traditions in it, the strong one being the First Nations traditions. How do we do that?
That's a good question. I think that when you look at where Indigenous storytelling comes from, it comes from a connection to land. All of my, if I can speak as an Intlakatma, so all of our, what we would call creation stories, or what they might call